Hello, it's Philip Taylor from Richmond Green Chambers. I'm looking at a book which is on General Smuts. It's called General Smuts, South Africa, by Tony Lentin, Professor Tony Lentin from Cambridge. It's in the Makers of the Modern World series, and it's the peace conferences of 1919 to 23 and their aftermath. This is the book, about 200 pages. It's got a nice bit of sort of pictures at the front. A lot of detailed information, some photographs, a lot of information, but it's a very readable book. Very useful chronology at the back and a good index. Nice picture on the back as well. It's a light book and actually a very good read, and as are all the books in the series. Now, my wife and I have written a review of this book, which we've called General Smuts, the Father of Reconciliation. And this is what we say. The World Cup may have raised South Africa's sporting profile, but for our money her history is much more fascinating, hence the interest and timeliness of Tony Lentin's latest historical biography of General Smuts. Smuts, of course, was South Africa's Prime Minister at the time of the Second World War, fighting on Britain's side as a British Field Marshal. And in Churchill's opinion, he was, quote, one of the most enlightened, courageous and noble-minded men of the 20th century. The first thing you notice in this book, when you open it, is the quotation from Smuts' remark to Sir Alfred Milner in 1905, when he says, "History writes the word reconciliation over all her quarrels." One wonders whether Nelson Mandela was familiar with this utterance, took it to heart and enshrined it in the title of his Truth and Reconciliation Initiative, which continues to inform and inspire the continuing, if difficult, development of contemporary South Africa, with its agonizing mixture of almost intractable problems. Well, who knows? It seems apparent, however, that reconciliation has become part of the collective mindset of South Africa. Historians, of course, are aware, but general readers all too often aren't, that Smuts' achievements and influence were by no means local to South Africa. He was, as author Tony Lentin points out, the heart and conscience of the Paris Peace Conference in the aftermath of the First World War, and is credited substantially for advocating the cause for magnanimity in victory in the form of a different peace with Germany rather than the punitive and vengeful peace which, understandably, eventually emerged. An inspiration to Woodrow Wilson, that's America's idealistic president, Smuts is credited with creating the plan which led to the formation of the League of Nations and inspired the Covenant of the League. Lentin's unshakable belief in the importance of Smuts' role at the Paris Peace Conference presents in his words, quote, another perhaps less familiar aspect of what happened at Paris. Focusing on Smuts' pivotal but frustratingly thwarted role at the peace conference, this eminently readable biography depicts a complex personality, a Renaissance man, if you like, of numerous gifts and talents. The narrative follows his career first as an assiduously studious academic at Cambridge, aren't we all, followed by a career as a barrister, again aren't we all, followed then by exploits as a commando leader in the Second World War, and his subsequent statesman-like role in the development of South Africa as an independent dominion. However, Smuts seems also to have been a man of contradictory impulses, particularly in his attitude to Nazi Germany. Whilst he found Nazism absurd and repulsive, he saw it as a psychological consequence of the Treaty of Versailles, quote, whose revision he continued to urge even as the threat from Germany increased, says the author. Some of the reasons for this stance are revealed in the book. Smuts believed in the inherent superiority of European civilization, primarily Anglo-Saxon and German. Compared with those of some of his contemporaries, his attitudes towards South Africa and the indigenous population were positively liberal, if paternalistic. Yet, as he told Parliament in 1945, it's a fixed policy to maintain white supremacy in South Africa. Nonetheless, despite some of his more unpalatable views, Smuts, towards the end of his life, apparently thought carefully about how, if he had remained in power, education and democracy might be extended to the black majority. The magnanimity with which was always his ideal and his watchword undoubtedly served as an inspiration to Mandela, whose interesting and apposite opinion of Smuts from the Long Walk to Freedom appears in the book. Quote, "I cared more than he had helped the foundation of the League of Nations, promoting freedom throughout the world," wrote Mandela, than the fact that he had repressed freedom at home. And you can see where the emphasis is. Smuts died in 1950. Could he have foreseen the cruelties and horrifying injustices that were to be engendered by the apartheid regime? One would like to think not. Anyway, thank you very much, Tony Lentin, for an excellent book, and to Haus Publishing as well for the series. Goodbye.